All right, welcome back to another episode of Confessions of a Recruiter. We've got a spicy one for y'all. We've got Declan going to walk us through the recruitment training strategies that we implement for our ex-recruiter partners that make them so successful. It's really, really interesting stuff. Dec's going to break it down. He's going to show you what it's all about. And then, if you're lucky enough, you'll be able to attend the training one day.
The training, the webinar, if you're good enough.
If you're good enough.
This is a game changer. So we're going to deep dive so then you know the expectations and what you can actually get out of this webinar that's coming up in the next few weeks. And then Blake will add some value at the end. All right. So at ex-recruiter, there's a rolling, ongoing 6-week training session that all recruiters have the ability to attend. It goes for 2 hours a week. And this is the part that is overlooked, or sometimes you don't actually work on your business as much when you're out on your own. You're always just stuck in the day-to-day. So this is why we say it's always important to spend, 10% of your week, 5 to 10% of your week, always working on your business and implementing it. That's why we have these consistent training pillars here at ex-recruiter. So this is what we're going to break down for you guys, because there's been, I think on average, you'd get about $15,000 worth of value for products and training straight out of the gates.
Absolutely, yeah.
The ROI on that would be much bigger.
Yeah, like you look at any of these courses or programs that you can buy, just a personal branding course that teaches you how to write posts on LinkedIn, you're looking at like $4,000 or $5,000. Just a training program that goes over a couple of weeks, video training, which isn't even live or one-on-one or interactive, you could be paying anywhere between $2,000 to $5,000. So the fact that we have these training programs that are a rolling weekly training program is pretty unheard of, and is a lot of the contribution to our recruiters' success, because they're always sharpening the axe. Training isn't something you do, it's something you...
Training's not something that's done, it's something that you do.
That's it.
Isn't that a great saying from Ryan?
Better together.
So, and just to give you some context as well, we've got partners from Hayes, Randstad, Goff, ASX listed organizations. So, a lot of big, reputable, high-performing teams where a lot of these recruiters have come from. Orec, phenomenal businesses. And, they always... they're like, I've never gone this in depth with training. So you can definitely become a high performer without this stuff. But if you want to go to the next level, these are the important conversations and work you need to be able to do on yourself so you can get there much quicker and skip, the year in, year out, just complete grinding it out every single day.
I've just thought of an analogy, Declan.
Hit me with it.
Most recruiters go through some sort of training maybe once a year. You do your onboarding, maybe you do a little training session, and it's really ad hoc, if at all. And if you could kind of relate that to going to the gym, if you just went to the gym for 3 weeks a year, would you be any better than you were the previous year? Absolutely not. So that's why it's so important to be training week after week and constantly compounding your skill set and your abilities.
I was thinking about this morning, just on that point. I was comparing where I was at when I was just training on my own at home, and you can only get so far.
Yes.
And then since joining back at CrossFit, how dramatically it's changed. Being in a group environment, seeing what's possible. If they can do it, I can do it. Coming back each week, what do you eat? Blah, blah, blah. It all flows on, and you'll actually get a hell of a lot better, a lot fitter, and a lot faster.
That is the essence of better together with ex-recruiter.
100%. So, there's a lot of emphasis when you first start your recruitment career, like your crash course in the week. And then, once you're a top performer in most agencies, you're sort of just left alone and keep doing what you're doing. So that's where we really take this to the new level. So to kick us off with the high performance coaching session number 1, these are the 2 session overviews. So we go through the pipeline builder, which is a proprietary product we've created here at ex-recruiter since the Blake Thompson, which is really good. So we'll take you through the different ways to follow up and track all of your clients. An overarching goal that everyone has is to achieve 100K in 100 days. So key strategies and metrics. So outbound activity is what we focus on from the beginning, emphasizing industry relevant events, trigger events focusing on increasing call numbers. So when you start, the activity and the pace you set for your business in the first 90 days is critical. It's really going to set the tone of the whole organization that you're running and who you will become in the first 90 days. So that's critical. So understanding that, we then prioritize metrics that are really, really important. It's easy to get caught up in metrics that make you feel good, that might not impact the bottom line. So these are the main 4 metrics that we really focus on here at Recruiter. One is essentially jobs on, face-to-face interviews or meetings, CVs sent, and placements. So
now, I know that sounds like a bit of a no-brainer when you say it. Like, that's the 101s of recruitment. However, you would be very surprised on how many times recruiters can get sidetracked around other activity metrics that they think is edging them towards all this kind of stuff. Like, oh, I connected with 20 people on LinkedIn today. I sent 15 DMs. I cold emailed like 28 people. I sent my terms of business 7 times. All of these little activity metrics are good.
noise. It's just noise.
It's just noise, says Declan.
It's noise.
You don't have to whisper it, mate. We're talking. This is a good one today, guys. And so the only thing that matters is jobs on, interviews, CV sent, and placements. And so sometimes it takes someone from standing on the outside looking in to go, hey, buddy, how many jobs on have you actually got, though? And you turn around and go, oh, shit, I've actually got no jobs. And you go, exactly, that's what you need to focus on. So there's a lot of psychological challenges that you go through when starting a new desk, starting an agency, getting into recruitment. And it's about keeping super clear and simple on the metrics that matter. So this is a really good one through that training.
Yeah, and then feeding on from that, the activity levels that you want to be achieving in these first 90 days, weekly and monthly. So you at least want to be organising 5 to 10 interviews per week. So that's 20 to 30 per month.
Can I jump in here? One thing that I hear a lot, which is extremely, I wouldn't say it's sad, but it's almost like some recruiters lie to themselves when they say that they're just ramping up. They're ramping up their activity. They're ramping up their jobs. They're ramping up their success. And no one ramps up. You either do it or you're not doing it. And so what I find is if you're currently ramping up your BD activities and maybe you're going to be doing 10 calls today and then maybe 12 calls tomorrow and then 14 calls the next day, all you're doing is delaying the success and achieving the metrics that matter. So when we say here interviews 5, 10 per week, reverse markets 12, 20 per week, jobs on 3 per week, don't ramp up to that. Just get that for the week. Does that make sense?
Mate, 100%.
It's kind of like the frog in the hot water thing where you put the frog in the normal water and then you slowly turn it hot and the frog has no idea what they're doing until they die. And they don't realize that their situation's getting worse and worse and worse. Same thing with a lot of recruiters that are lying to themselves around ramping up. They will go, I'm doing a soft launch. I'm slowly getting into it. You know, I'm getting there. And basically what they're doing is they're just lying to themselves and they don't mean to do it. There's no nefarious, activity going on here, but it's a trap for new business owners and new recruiters when having to build a desk. They think it takes time. They're ramping up. It takes a bit to get the wins. It doesn't. You just need to go extremely hard, flick the switch, do all the outbound activity you can possibly fit in a day, go home exhausted and proud that you've absolutely ripped it for the day, and then come back again the next day and do it again. Don't ramp up. You're lying to yourself. Anyway, rant over.
Yeah, so don't mention the word ramp up to any conversation with Blake.
Yeah, don't tell me you're ramping up, mate.
So by then, you wouldn't have ramped up anything. You would have got 10 interviews in your first week. You'd be reverse marketing 12 to 20 candidates per week, getting out to jobs. In most markets, that works incredibly well. So that's 40 to 80 people that are out in the market. 3 jobs on per week at a bare minimum. Placements, ideally you want to be doing 1 to 2 per week. So then that's 4 to 8 placements per month. Obviously, these are perm numbers. If it was temp, obviously 10x everything here.
Yeah.
Goals and metrics of success. So, we go through and understand your personal goal definitions, short-term, weekly success metrics, medium-term, 6 months. So like your success vision. We then go through.
Can we talk about this for a second?
Okay, sure.
So goal setting and success metrics. Don't confuse this with KPIs. Some recruiters get a little bit shocked when you say, what are your KPIs? And sometimes, there's a bit of a mindset of, I'm starting my own business. I don't have KPIs anymore. Success metrics are really, really important to know what you do well and what you need improvement on. And so if you're not constantly reinventing, refining, and reimagining what your success metrics are, you simply can't become a better recruiter. And I'm sure we can all agree that it's nice to be a good recruiter. We all share the same hours in the day. Some put $2 million a year on the board. Some put 200 grand on the board. It'd be nice to share the same hours in the day and the same performance as a $2 million biller by just changing what you do and just accurately measuring what those success metrics are. So if anyone kind of is sitting there and wondering, like, how do I become a better recruiter? It starts by understanding what your metrics are today, what your achievements are today, and then where you want to get to, and then work towards that.
100%. And then from there, getting that down pack first is super, super important, because that'll lay the foundation. And then, we can focus on your vision and what you want to do medium term and long term. And then knowing your numbers. Not many recruiters actually realize what it takes to build 600. Let's just say 600K. So we've got our metrics of activity calculator in front of us. We want to bill $600,000. Our average fee is $21,000. Our placement rate is 30% on average.
So what that means is,
it's a surprising thing, mate. When I do the coil system and we're kicking off in the onboarding, many recruiters have an 80 to 90% conversion rate. What that tells me
is they don't know what their conversion rate is.
We go 6 to 12 months down the track, it's anywhere from 17 to 33%.
Yeah, makes sense.
So if you want to do 600K at an average fee of 21,000, 29 placements, 2 per month, 1 per week. And then that means you didn't have 95 jobs on a year, have constantly 8 per month, so 8 new jobs coming in, 2 per week. Calls to get this would be 476 calls, so that's getting 5 calls a day, 476 calls for the year, 40 per month, and 9 per week. That's connected calls.
Yeah, you know what I love about this is I've done this exercise with Vendito, and I've even broken it down to because we track all the calls. All calls are recorded, outbound, inbound, minutes on the phone, etc. And that's the beauty of X-Recruiter. We make sure that everything is tracked and we know our numbers. I've actually broken it down to dollars per minute on the phone and dollars per phone call for Vendito staff. And the really interesting thing is everyone's dollars per minute on the phone and dollars per phone call that they make is roughly the same, a low biller and a high biller. So we had someone billing $250K. We had someone billing $1 million. And I'm not sure if this is exact, but it's thereabouts. Every time they picked up the phone, it resulted in $48 worth of revenue for the business. And that was the $1 million biller. And then the 200K biller, every time they picked up the phone, it was like $45 of revenue for the business. And the only difference was the $1 million biller just did 3 times the amount of phone calls. That's it. They actually made the same amount of money per phone call. It's just that the volume of phone calls were more.
Wow.
Pretty crazy, hey?
Yeah.
So just pick up the phone more. Yeah.
That's full on. And then we round out this section by pitch strategy. So really knowing what to say, because it happens time in, time out. You start your recruitment agency and you feel like you're Bambi getting reborn again and fumbling around and having to learn recruitment again. That's literally what it feels like for most people. So this is where we put an emphasis on understanding your experience, your past placements, what you've achieved. Those stories are really important. Utilizing MCO. So you may have heard us talk about MCP from Ryan at Swish. We've developed MCO. So myself, company, outcome. So that's where you'll be able to have a couple of dot points about yourself. Then speak of a couple of unique selling points about your company, and then what outcomes you've created for clients and candidates in the past. So then you'll be able to pitch confidently and speak their language. We then also go through call strategies. So having a specific reason for making the call, avoid just checking in, looping back, those basic low-level phrases that we tend to find ourselves saying all the time. Have your pitch practiced and rehearsed. Not very often. It's just like going to the gym. You can train day in, day out and go to every workout. But unless you're doing that stretching, unless you're doing those 1%ers, then you're not actually going to improve as much as you could and your lifts won't go up. So it's no different to being in the sales floor. You can, be banging calls all day, and you see it time and time again. Sometimes, those recruiters that just don't get it, they're not reviewing their calls, they're not role playing, they're not rehearsing, and coming back the next day. You
know what's interesting, and what I think I've done okay at in recruitment is I say literally the same thing all the time. Like I don't mix up my cold call approach that often. I might change one or two words max. And what I find, the more I speak to recruiters, the more I realize that none of them have a solid script that they stick to every single time they make a phone call. And so what happens is every BD call they make is always different. And they don't know when what they say, how they say it is actually making an impact, because every call is different all the time. And so on the flip side of that, when I've pushed people to have a script and they go, it just sounds so scripted. It's like, of course you do. You haven't said it enough times. Of course you don't feel like this sounds like you because you haven't said it before. But if you have a script and you stick to the same script and say it 1,000 times, not only will it sound great, you'll actually know what gets cut through and what doesn't. And then you can slowly tweak each part of that script to make it more impactful, more relevant, more interesting to the prospects that you're calling. But if you're just picking up the phone and dialing with zero strategy, zero script, and zero outcome to focus on, then you'll never actually know what's working for you or not.
Yeah, imagine watching a movie where it's 100% impromptu and then 100% scripted.
Yeah.
What movie would you want to watch?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. And then, things around ghosting, how to avoid ghosting, scheduling meetings to review proposals, multi-channel follow-up. So these are in the pipeline builder, we've got 14 unique ways. So you can put in your company, your contact details, position titles, numbers, emails, addresses. And then we've got, their LinkedIn profile, their advertised jobs, their LinkedIn ads. And then you've got 14 different ways to follow up. So email, LinkedIn, phone call, share an article, SMS, reverse marketing, endorsing on LinkedIn, liking a post, campaigns, handwritten letters, site visits, event invitations. And it's just voice notes. So all these little ways is different ways to get in front of your clients. And then there's a progress tracking bar. And you fill in each date every time you do it. And the goal is to obviously do it in the least amount of dates possible.
Yeah. It gamifies the process of prospecting. Because you can feel like I've had people before in my agency where you'll chat to someone, you go, how you going for the day? They go, I've pumped the calls today. I go, really? Show me. Like, oh, mate. And then they've done 7 calls. And you're like, how can you think you've pumped the calls today if you've done 7 calls? And they're like, it doesn't feel like that. And when they say that, I know they're not tracking their activity. Because if they were, they'd go, oh, shit, I've only done 7 calls. I need to pick my game up. So the pipeline builder not only keeps you accountable, but it removes the feeling that you're actually doing more than you really are. Because all of us think we're doing more than we really are. And it's nice to have that reality stick when you're logging each follow-up, each type of follow-up, and knowing that there's 14 different ways that you can reach out to someone. It makes it a little bit more exciting and interesting to follow up than just writing back, hey, bumping this to the top of your inbox. You can actually have a little bit of fun with it.
Awesome. So the 3 products you get in the first session is the pipeline builder, the MCO pitch strategy, and applying the metrics of activity calculator so you can really get dialed in from the beginning. Awesome. So that's all within week 1. So there's a bit to implement after that, big boy. And then HPC, so high performance coaching, number 2, week 2, is aligning sales activities with goals. So start obviously using the metrics calculator as we discussed. integrating that to your weekly lessons, into your training programs, and completing these ahead of your coaching calls and catch-ups.
Okay, so if there are any recruiters out there that are interested to find out what it's like to have a VA support them in their role, whether that be to bill more, reduce tasks that they don't enjoy doing, or be a more effective recruiter in their niche, then we definitely recommend reaching out to the Outsource People or TOP. Reach out to them, inquire on how they can implement a VA in your agency and to support you. And if you mention ex-recruiter or Confessions of a Recruiter, they will give you a 13% discount off your bill per month on this VA that will allow you to scale your business, scale your desk, and to bill more and make more money. So go reach out to the Outsource People, say Confession sent you, get your discount, and see what is possible. So what I love about the first week, it's all tools-based. It's practical. You can apply yourself. There's no open to interpretation modules in this. It's all, this is what you do. This is what success is. Now, this isn't just for rookie recruiters or experienced recruiters. This is for every single recruiter. Like every single recruiter can get something out of this. And I like the kind of, I don't know if it's a quote, but Matt says it really well. He says, have you got 10 years recruitment experience, or have you got 1 year's recruitment experience 10 times? And so like we find that a lot of recruiters that have been in the industry for 10 years instinctively believe that they're better, more knowledgeable, more skillful than other recruiters because they've got so much experience in the industry. But what they have failed to do is to upskill proactively over that 10 years. So don't just rely on experience on the job. You've also got to actually, and I've said this a couple of times now, hopefully I don't sound like I'm repeating myself, but sharpen the axe week in, week out. And this is what this promotes.
Awesome. And then we go into language of leaders. This is a major game changer for all recruiters. If you're able to actually implement this, you will see it straight away. And more often, and the reason why I love it so much is because when I was still recruiting last year, and we met Matt for the first time, I implemented it firsthand, and a client's reaction was, "Wow, you've never asked me these types of questions," and I just didn't know to go this in depth. So this is the part where you really upskill your commercial acumen. Like I was chatting to the AMP boys on a call yesterday, and I said, you don't realize actually how far you've come in such a short frame of mind when you're increasing your business acumen, like the conversations, the tables you're getting seats at, the return business. This is all because you're then talking more commercially. So this is what the language of leaders is about. So mapping out all of the different roles in an organization that you're going to recruit for. Typically, they're going to be these if you're a sales recruiter. A CEO or general manager, talent acquisition, HR manager, sales manager. They're typically the 4 or 5 titles you're traditionally going to be speaking to. And then we break down, what is important to your buyer persona, information to sell off, and then your value proposition. They're always going to be different. So if we're talking about a general manager, their challenge and problems that they go through, role objectives and goals, their role metrics of success. It's really important you understand these.
Yeah, so just to summarize this, a general manager has different pain points than a talent acquisition manager, than a sales manager, than a different type of hiring manager in a different department, right? So if you're speaking to everyone in the same way through the recruitment process, you're not going to resonate with everyone. So you need to understand what their pain points are and what's important to them, and then be able to tailor your messaging around what they care about, not what you think you care about.
100%. So to give you a quick example, we'll just do a couple of runs throughs here. Like challenge and problems for a CEO or a general manager is typically organization direction, strategy, cash flow, churning staff, results for shareholders or the board or publicly listed, delivering key projects, reducing risk, whether they be across health and safety or cyber, and engaging the leadership team. That's really the main challenges and problems that they go through. Role and objectives is like the KPIs or metrics of success for those challenges and problems. And then the role success metrics is obviously revenue growth, net profit, dividends, share price, meeting operational objectives, LTIs, hitting projections as well. So they're the main ones. And then like talent acquisition, which is a completely opposite role to a CEO, for example. What means for them? They're worried about recruiters circumventing their process, reducing external spend, dealing with difficult hiring managers who may not understand what
Candidate experience
is a big one.
Yeah.
D&I, inclusion, all these types of stuff means a lot more to them than a CEO.
Yeah, helping hiring managers interview more effectively. When we had Lexi on the pod last week, I mean, that was a big thing for her around some of these hiring managers don't actually know how to interview. So it's a huge value add. If you can lead into a TA and go, hey, look, I don't want to circumvent the process. I understand you might want to reduce costs by using agencies. I've got someone here that would be that has an amazing experience or perspective on your business that I can help coach and guide the hiring manager through how to acquire them, et cetera, et cetera. These are all like big box to tick for a TA, but you wouldn't say that to a CEO or a GM. They'd be like, what are you talking about, mate? I don't care about any of that stuff. So it's just important to know who you're talking to and what their personality and persona and objectives are.
And one of the key ways, whether you know you're getting it right or wrong, if you speak talent acquisition language to a CEO, they'll then refer you to talent acquisition or HR. If you're then, so you always get put down to the language that you're speaking, the level that you're speaking. But also if you're speaking, CEO level stuff to talent acquisition, will probably go over their head. They'll be like, oh, I'll probably just chat to my boss.
Yep. So
that's on the fly if you're hitting the right marks. And then, understanding trends, challenges in the market, thought leaders, and different trigger events that are going to pop up for each of these individual people and what they all mean. And then aligning the results you've achieved. So say if you're talking to talent acquisition, you want to talk about the results of where you've turned around a hiring manager who had no understanding of interviewing. You'll then be able to increase the hire rates or shorten the interview process because you're able to upskill hiring managers in interviewing, making the talent acquisition role a lot easier. Or, you always put forward a 50-50 diversity shortlist of candidates so they're hitting different metrics. So those types of stories that you've had in the past, or maybe a CEO, you've placed an executive role, or you've placed a sales team, or something that's had impact on the bottom line and reduced risk of bringing on a new supplier. Those types of stories are going to hit really well when you're chatting to CEOs. By now, you're 2 to 4 weeks, depending when you start, into your business. You've got interviews, you're getting jobs on, you're getting client meetings. Some of our partners already have placements at this stage. So the next session we run through is objection handling. So that's where we really get in the weeds of things, of what the typical objections we all face. And when you are getting objections, it's really important to leverage not only the language of leaders topic we went through, but also understand the different personalities of people. If you're speaking to someone that's a D and a driver and they're direct, using short language, short emails, don't get long-winded, fluffy information to them. They just won't get engaged. And then if they are like an S personality, having someone who's, steady Eddie, making sure you tick all the boxes, go through the process, that type of stuff's really, really important. Internal talent team, we do it ourselves, whether that's across Seek, advertised roles, or internal TA.
We all have objections. There's usually 4 or 5 objections any recruiter runs into when trying to win new business, either with existing or new clients, sorry. And so the way that we create objection handling techniques is around objection handling with stories. So what this means is, let's say if someone says, oh, we're advertising already, then we create a story to overcome that objection, which could be something along the lines of, this reminds me of Declan from ex-recruiter when he said as well, look, we're advertising directly. And it wasn't until he realized the amount of talent that is far beyond just a job application that he could consider for his team that he's missing out on, was that then when he decided maybe it's actually worth seeing who else is out there that could be a good fit for my team and give myself the right of refusal on these people. And then so we ended up going exclusive because he realized the talent was that much better. He realised that the impact that our candidates could make were that much more superior than the job applications. And so we've ended up placing 3 roles with him just recently. And so selling with a story and overcoming objections with a story is a really powerful way to not seem like you're a salesperson on the back foot. So ultimately what this objection handling tool does is we start to create your top 5 stories. We then start to create the stories that are relevant to you and your experience. And then once you're out there winning new business, building your desk, you'll have an arsenal of stories and objection handling techniques that will overcome the toughest objections, get you through either the gatekeeper, the hiring manager, and make sure that you can land new accounts time and time again.
Understanding market insights as well, the difference between active, passive talent, emphasizing top performers aren't always actively looking for jobs as well, exceeding. So having these conversations down packed is you've actually done them for years. What many people don't realize, these stories are already in your experience. They're not, you don't have to wait to do it for yourself and, wait 6 months to build up this backlog of stories. You've already got these stories as a recruiter. It's just a matter of going into the memory bank, pulling them out, and then implementing them into your new process.
What I love about this is there's a big discovery that happens for all the recruiters that go through this process. And that is they don't realize like how good or how impactful they really are. And so when you talk to a recruiter and you go, tell me about this time, and they go, oh, this, then this happened. And you're like, perfect, let's turn that into a story that you can sell and lead with. And they go, holy shit, that's a great idea. And then all of a sudden, you've got this recruiter who, thinks they're reasonably good. That's why they're starting their agency. But then all of a sudden, we uncover and peel back the layers like an onion on what they've actually achieved in their career. And it just improves the confidence, the language, their articulation on what their value is to clients, and it allows them to win business that they've never actually won before. So it's really awesome helping recruiters like uncover what they already have inside that they already possess and then just bring it to surface.
To tie this session off, we recreate a job qualification document that we build out in everyone's CRMs. And it's really easy to think. It's a bit like the calling, I've called heaps of people and you think you're doing the work. It's the same. You can get caught up really easy if you don't have the right templates in place, the question flow actually built into your CRM. None of this like using sticky notes or scribbling on bits of paper, having a crack. So we build out a job order qualification form that has these language of leaders questions in it. It follows a process, and that way you're going to get the absolute best out of not only the company, but also being able to then recruit candidates from there.
Yeah, like we at Recruiter don't like leaving things to chance or leaving things open to interpretation. And job qualification is all about, in most instances, your perception on how qualified the job is. I'm sure we can all agree that we've spoken to recruiters that have said, oh, I've just got this brand new job on with ABC company, and then next minute they never speak to them again. And so what we try and do with this tool is we implement it in your CRM. You answer the questions, and then you get it creates a formula, and then you know whether or not your job needs more work, your job's hot and you're ready to start recruiting it, or your job is non-existent and you need to go back to the drawing board and keep finding new opportunities. So by implementing these processes and systems in your agency, it removes the guesswork, it removes the interpretation, it removes the perception out of what you think you're doing, and makes things extremely clear, concise, easy to read, easy to action, easy to focus. So you can just focus on doing is winning and not wondering, oh, is this client engaged? Oh, is this client worth calling back? Have I done the right thing here? And getting caught up with mixed feelings.
So then that brings us on to week 4, which is the 3 C's. Authority to represent. I know that's something I've never done.
No,
I would just be focused on, doing the right thing by the candidate and the client and getting the terms over, having all the communication there. But that's one thing that Matt puts a real emphasis on, is authority representing is actually one against clients in certain situations where the candidate's been put forward by another agency and you go, look, they don't have an authority to represent. Ultimately, he wins the candidate.
What I like about authority to represent, and so just for people that have never heard of this before, because this was a new tool that I found out about from Matt Cossins, is it's basically a document or an email which says authority to represent, hi, first name, confirming that you have given me authority to represent you and your background to, future opportunities, XYZ company, whatever. Please respond to this email or sign this document to say that you give me authority to represent your details. Now, my initial reaction to this was, why are we making things harder for ourselves, basically? Why are we putting potential roadblocks in front of us when we just want to call a candidate, yep, they're keen, interview them, send them the details off, and we're good to go. And since maturing from that kind of thought process and understanding the power of an authority to represent, what it does is it creates a lot more tie-in and buy-in from the candidate to you. You will not have a candidate ghost you when you've sent them authority to represent. You've made it real. It's like the old sales trick. I learned this from selling cars, is if someone comes in to buy a car, no matter what they offer you, you always get them to sign a contract at that price, even if you can't do it. And the reason why you do that is because the moment someone signs something, it makes it real, and the game is now changed. Now you can actually start negotiating. Now you can actually start having more power and control over the process because they've signed a document to say, yes, this is what I want. And so if we use that same frame of mind and you send them an authority or an email to say, I will be representing you for X, Y, Z reasons, and they go, yes, happy for that to happen, the game is now changed. They are now so much more committed to you, and you'll be able to get so much more out of them because they feel like it's a more professional, corporate, and engaging process. So that's why I love that. But it's something that I think is a bit of a game changer if you've never used it. It can feel like you're adding layers of admin to your process, but in the long run, you get candidates that are way more sticky and way more easier to do the deal and get them over the line at the end of the process.
And then we go on what is actually a good recruitment process as well is really, really important. So, is there a completed job brief? Is there agreed timelines and a plan communicated to the client? Clients love this, especially if you're selling retainers. Really important to get that part of the process down packed. Qualifying candidates, having face-to-face interviews. So we break down what an excellence in the recruitment process is, and then we also cover the 3 C's, which they are, Blake.
The three C's are closing, control, and create urgency. Are you in control? Are you creating urgency? And are you ultimately closing them at the end of the process and not keeping it open? So week 4 is obviously a really fun week around the actual recruitment process. Now, what makes all this even more exciting is we go through, especially if you're a new recruiter joining X-Recruiter, we actually go through the process as it's happening in real time when you start your business. So let's say we have week 1, which is all about the pipeline builder, finding prospects, speaking like a leader, cold calling scripts. That's week 1. That's what you're actually physically doing in your first week of business. And then we're talking about week 4 here, where we're talking about authority to represent and closing, control, create urgency with candidates. At week 4 of your business, this is where you're going to be dealing with candidates the most because you've built the pipeline, you've reached out to people, you've done your client interviews. Now, all of a sudden, you're learning these things in real time whilst your business is unfolding, which I think is really, really cool.
And then we have a week off. So we have an implementation week. There's obviously a lot we've gone through. So we give everyone a week off so they can rejuvenate, think about and reflect on everything. So either they do that themselves or they reach out to myself, Emma, Matt, Taryn on how they can implement all of this. If it's not happening weekly, it's just making sure you actually edge out the time, whether it's with us or yourself, and implement every step along the way. And then content is king, is the final session. So, it's seen more and more often. The personal brands that are getting built by partners, are incredibly strong. Crystal's really consistent with it. Harwell's done a fantastic job. H People's got their whole team and their virtual assistants all posting content. It's absolutely massive. Ezzy's out there. Tash is a genius at it. So all of these people are gravitating towards personal branding because it works. So that's what we go through in this final session. It's not one of those ones where you do a post and you guaranteed leads the next day, unless you're an absolute viral king like Mr. Thompson here. But for many of us who are just trying to figure it out, this is where we really get into the weeds of things. So creating a strategy that over time compounds, and you will have inbound leads if you're talking to language of leaders, if you're speaking to your clients, sharing factual things that matter to them, that's up to date with the industry. Knowing habits triggers big rocks as well around content. And because I think you sort of play into sort of 2 or 3 different personas. So having those pillars built out is really important, not trying to be everything to anyone. And then, we set you up with a content planner so you can really create solid strategies around your content, establish effective habits. It doesn't mean you need a huge media outfit like Recruiter to do every single one of your posts. A lot of written text gets the most likes, interactions on LinkedIn. And then obviously you can explore further opportunities for training and development or one-on-one sessions with us here at Recruiter to be able to obviously build and bolster your personal brand.
Awesome. So that's it.
That's it.
That is the rolling 4-week training that happens every single week at Recruiter. So no matter if you're 1 day in business, 1 year in business, 10 years in business, this will always be available to you live, one-on-one, to go through your processes, seek out your blind spots, improve things that you need to improve, and also lean into your craft and make sure that you're always improving and making sure that we're all better together.
That's it.
Thanks for this. Thanks for listening in to this week's episode. It's a bit of a different one. We thought we'd share a little bit more context around training that we do here at Recruiter. We'll also be putting out a live podcast, a live training session, that will be available to recruiters, and we'll reveal that soon. But until next week, have fun.
Keep calling.
Keep calling. Thanks for tuning in to another Confessions of a Recruiter podcast with Blake and Declan. We hope you enjoyed and got a lot of value and insights out of this episode. If you do have any questions or you would like to recommend someone to come on the Confessions podcast, we would love any introductions. And remember the rule of the podcast: like, share, and recommend it to a friend. Until next time.